Well, I don't know about you, but whenever I am thirsty, there is literally nothing that can get in the way of me finding some water. This past summer when I was training for cross country, it would never fail that every day I'd leave my house to go for a run and I'd be running fine for most of the workout. But then all of a sudden, towards the end, it was like, boom, this overwhelming thirst would come upon me, and all that I could think about is I need water. And I remember that I'd always take that thirst and I'd let it motivate me to run faster, to get home sooner. And I'd tell myself things like, come on, Skylar, you just gotta push it till you get home. Because I knew that if I could just get home, that as soon as I walked inside, there would be cold, refreshing water that would satisfy my thirst. I remember one day, I just finished my run and I walked inside and I was drinking my cup of water, and I felt what I think was the Holy Spirit pop this question in my mind. And that is, how is it that whenever I'm thirsty and I'm on a run, my first thought is always, I've got to go home. But whenever I'm thirsty and I'm running the race of life, I tend to look everywhere but home in search of something to satisfy my thirst. And so I started thinking about it. And, for as long as I can remember, there have been things that my innermost being is longing for and that my soul is thirsting for. Things like love, security, peace, joy, companionship, relationship. I think that these are things that all of us at the core of our being are searching for and thirsting for. Maybe you can relate to this, but even though I'm a follower of Jesus and I know that my home is in him, I have really struggled with looking to places besides home to satisfy my thirst. Places like relationships, acceptance, people's opinions of me, likes on social media, certain friend groups, the list goes on. But at the end of the day, none of those places that I've looked besides home ever satisfied my thirst. In fact, they left me feeling pretty empty inside afterwards. Thankfully, God has been so patient and merciful towards me throughout all my failures and shortcomings. And he has continued to redirect my heart to something that's true for me, and that is also true for you. And that is that only he can satisfy the deepest longings of our hearts, the very things that our souls are thirsting for. He's continued to remind me of this truth with a few verses in the book of Isaiah that I want to share with you today. And it's in Isaiah chapter 55, verses 1 and 2. And in my Bible, the title of this passage is literally an invitation to the thirsty. So it's perfect. And so I want to share that with you today. So starting in verse 1, this is what the prophet Isaiah writes. It says, "Come, everyone who is thirsty, come to the water. And you without money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why do you spend your money on what is not food and your wages on what doesn't satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and you will enjoy the richest of foods." Wow. I love these verses because it's saying, hey, if you are thirsty, there is a place that you are invited to come to, and it doesn't cost you anything. You are invited to come to the water. Where's the water? Well, God tells us in Jeremiah chapter 2 that he is the fountain of living water, and he is inviting us into his presence, into a relationship with him, and that is where we will find fulfillment, where we will find our soul's thirst quenched. And I love the question that's asked in verse 2. It says, why do you spend your money on what is not food and your wages on what doesn't satisfy? In other words, Why are you wasting your time, your energy, your efforts on things that aren't going to satisfy you? It's almost like God's trying to get our attention and say, look, I know that things of this world, they look like they're going to satisfy you on the outside, but trust me when I say this, only I can satisfy the deepest longings of your heart. And I'm inviting you to come and drink and eat of me, to listen to me, be in relationship with me. And that is where you will find fulfillment. I promise you that it's only in my presence that you will find the fullness that you're looking for. I will fill you up and you will leave satisfied. You know, we don't have time to fully unpack these verses, but here is the main point. Although sometimes it's tempting to look to other places to satisfy thirst inside all of us, it is only when we run straight home, straight into God's presence, that we will find fulfillment and that we will find the water that our souls thirst for. We just have to go straight home. And to wrap up, I just want to encourage you with this. Wherever you're at today, whatever your heart is longing for, there is a God who sees you, who knows you by name, who is madly in love with you, and he is dying to be in relationship with you. He is waiting with arms wide open for you to come home and come to him so that he can fill you up and satisfy you with the fullness of who he is. To close out, I just want to say this. My prayer for me and my prayer for you is that we will be people who, whenever we're aware of our spiritual thirst, we choose to sprint straight home because we know that that is where the water's at.